Welcome to Running Down the Clock, where we break down all of this week's big news, events, and controversies from the National Football League. Over the next 45 minutes, we will give you basic fan perspective and opinion on the most important stories and moments happening now. So, let's start the clock. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Running Down the Clock. I am Tyler Walzak. I'm here with Puya Ricey. As always, we're actually sitting side by side. Our knees are touching pretty much.
Once a season, twice a season, we do the live show together. Is that true?
Yeah, it's usually a better show, too.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to start us off here by calling you out on calling me out. A couple weeks now, I've come up with the game of the week. That's my specialty. I don't know anything about football, defensive scheme, offensive play calls. I don't know anything about that. But I can tell you the game of the week. I called it last week with Buffalo, Kansas City, and you call me out and you say, oh, no, there's a bigger game, Philadelphia Eagles. And I've said this before, the game of the week isn't necessarily the one with the biggest impact on the standings. The game of the week is going to be the one most talked about and the one that's going to be the most entertainment value. And that's where I picked the game of the week. And you said it was going to be the Cowboys and Eagles, but I stand by it. Was it not Kansas City, Buffalo? That was the game of the week.
That's because of the way both games, it was a better game to watch, yes.
It was a better game to watch. It came down to the final play, and it was talked about more.
It wasn't really the final play, but it was a play with a minute left. Should we just go right into that now? Because I thought you were going to call me out about this at the end of the fucking show, because it's written down here at the notes on point number 28. Where does it say? It says, here, once again, I got the game in the right, and Tyler didn't ask me about it. So you just brought that up to the forefront to lead off the show with.
Yeah, because if you're going to catch somebody off guard, you got to catch them off guard. You can't let them ease into it.
Didn't expect this at all. You could have got me off guard at any point in this. At any point. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get right into the Chiefs, because is this the point where they turn heel? Like, where they become a bad guy?
I don't know, because they're not a bad team in terms of, like, you think of some of those old teams like the Raiders, do anything to win, break a guy's like finger and stuff. Like, they're not that evil empire type of team. They've just experienced a lot of success, and a lot of people don't like them, right? Like, a lot of people don't like success. LeBron James is the first guy that comes to mind. He's not a bad guy. He has no bad characteristics as a person.
A bunch of them.
That you could...
He has a bunch of them. He lies all the time. He gets caught lying every time.
Are they lies, though?
They're 100% lies.
Why are they lies?
Where's the one where he's just like, I knew that Kobe was going to drop 81 points that night. I knew it.
Sure.
Why even say it, though? Why? You're just making yourself look dumb.
Anyway, people don't like him because he's successful. If he wasn't successful...
No, it has nothing to do with successfulness.
It's the same thing with Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes is going to get a lot of hate just because he is the best quarterback in the league right now. He's going to get hate for that. People always want to hate on the best guy and judge him differently than everybody else. This week, everyone's hating on him just because of his comments about the referees.
His entire actions, I had no problem with Patrick Mahomes before. I'm not hating guys. I don't hate LeBron James because he's great. I hate LeBron James because sometimes he's annoying. And he just goes the next step because he wants to be liked so much that it's like, it's annoying to me.
So did it turn him heel?
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, is heel, because right now I hate the Kansas City Chiefs now. Everything that they've done off the field this year has annoyed the shit out of me. The Taylor Swift stuff is fine, whatever, but then Brittany Mahomes jumping onto the Taylor Swift bandwagon and them hanging out together, that rubbed me the wrong way. And then now, with not just what he said about the referees after the game, Mahomes I'm talking about, it's the way he handled it when the call was made and throwing his helmet on the sidelines and, like, just absolutely losing his mind on the official, on his other teammates, like, complaining to them about it, not yelling at them. But then going up to Josh Allen after the game and being like, I can't believe that fucking call. That's crazy. Like, I've never seen a game end on an offensive offside. It's like, dude, you lost a game to the guy you're complaining to because of a fucking coin toss. And he didn't get to go to the Super Bowl because of a coin flip. And you're complaining because your guy was offside. That it was the right call. He was offside. He was blatantly offside. So as soon as Mahomes decides to go on this fucking tangent about like one call, which it's not like the referee threw the flag after that play. He had no idea that it was going to be one of the coolest plays of all time. There's no possible way. He threw the flag as soon as the ball was snapped. That's what he has to do as an official. So what was he supposed to do? Like, did Mahomes just want him to go like, hey, that was a really cool play. We're not going to call a penalty on this?
So two things. With the Josh Allen bit, I don't know what their personal relationship is. Like, they had that golf tournament thing together.
They're apparently friends.
Yeah, they're buddies. Like, that could have been an after the game. I understand it looks bad because it just looks like you're a sore loser complaining about the play.
He is a sore loser.
But we don't know the dynamic of the relationship. If they're buddies like that, and like, you know, he's talking to him candidly after the game like a buddy, and they kind of understand each other, it's different than it just, you know, any random quarterback comes up to you at the game and kind of diminishes your win by saying, "Oh, it was a bullshit call." Right? I'll give them a little bit of leeway just because they do seem to have some sort of relationship off the field as well. But now the call itself. The call, like, what's the controversy on this call? Like, do you remember last year there was a Terry McLaurin play where he lined up, he checked with the referee kind of gave him a nod, and then he stepped back, checked again, referee didn't do anything, and then he scored a touchdown.
That would have been a call where I would agree with if that happened to Kansas City this time, where he checked and the referee said he was like good or not good, but Tony did not check at all. So this entire game, he did not every single time he lined up, he never checked once with the referee. Not once.
Right. But was he offside multiple times?
4 times.
4 times. So
this was the most egregious one.
Was it? Okay, well,
yeah.
The
ball was behind his head.
That's the part that gets me is why are the refs like waiting to not call something and then choosing the most pivotal time to call it?
I think it was because it was the most egregious one, and it was like, man, this guy's been doing this all game, and he's not learning from it. Right. And it's like we're throwing the flag on it.
Fair enough. At the end of the day,
but there's no way they were going to know that play would come from.
No. At the end of the day, it's on Kadarius Toney.
Yeah.
Like, you are a professional. You need to sort something out here. Like, you've cost them multiple games now.
Yeah. Well, so I listened to Shannon Sharp and Chad Ochocinco talk about this.
Yeah.
Both guys that caught balls that lined up on the line of scrimmage, and not one of them have ever been called for offsides. And they said, that is on Tony. You have to check. Every time you go to the line, you look over, you check with the referee. You're either good or not good. Usually you're good because it's like so minimal. He didn't do it once. He's like, that's a human error. That's like, and also they made a point to call this year. I think last year there was maybe 1 or 2 times this was called. There was 11 times before this weekend that this offensive offsides was called. So they were making a point to do it. You're going to see it again, but you're also going to see guys be offside and it not get called. It's just how egregious is it? How ridiculous is it? And I think that it was more they called it because he wasn't wide. He wasn't out wide. He was tight up against the offensive line, which makes it that much more kind of like, are you kidding me? Like, are you just going to throw it in our faces at this point?
I don't have any sympathy for the Chiefs. It's a fair call, and also you've been on the other end of a lot of calls
in the Super Bowl,
ticky-tacky calls. I just think you got to move on from Tony or something here. Like, something's got to change.
I don't know how he's still.
But
if you're a teammate of his, like, aren't you like, dude? You now not only are you dropping the balls, which is your job, is to catch those balls. You were hired as a wide receiver. It's in your name. But now you're dropping balls and you're making like bad position plays and you're doing things before even the snap that are detrimental to our team. I don't know why you're still on this team. Yeah. And I think the only reason is because they gave up like a 2nd-round pick for him in that trade.
My beef with the refs is the same thing I've said before, is the inconsistency of calls. Because as everyone knows, they called the right call here. He was offside. It is what it is. It's a black and white thing. Yeah. It's not an up for debate thing. There's a physical, an imaginary physical line, and you're over it. You're over it.
Yeah, and again, it was called the flag. You can hear Al Michaels, who was the Chris Collinsworth, somebody, whoever the announcer was, Tony Romo maybe. They said, or I think it was Joe Buck, flag thrown at the snap, like flag on the play. There's a flag on the offensive line. So no one knew this play was going to happen. If this play didn't happen, this isn't a controversy at all. It's next play. So they let it get to themselves after that call. They got all hyped up about it. And just the way, like, I don't know, Mahomes has been good his entire career about just being quiet, speaking like when he's calm, collected, cool. Like, he's never had a problem like this. So for that to be this long, like from the get, I can understand being mad on the sidelines. I can understand that. I don't understand. I also you were talking to Josh Allen in the heat of that moment, like it just happened to you. So I can sort of understand why you would say that to Josh Allen, even though Josh Allen was on the other side of that losing coin flip, then all year has been basically buried in Buffalo, like a witch hunt for him to lose his job. They want his coach fired. They want his offensive coordinator fired. They want the GM fired in Buffalo. There's a lot of things going on in Buffalo where if I was Josh Allen and Mahomes came up to me and said that, I'd be like, dude, you're preaching to the wrong person here. Like I've got so many other fires I have to put out. Like you can go, just get on your bus and go home. But to then see the picture and the play and continue to bitch about it at your news conference after the game when you've had time to calm down is, I feel like it's either just ignorance on his part and childish behavior on his part, or he's still trying to defend Tony, because I feel like Chiefs fans would crucify Tony at this point.
I think it's maybe the frustrations of the constant, shortcomings of the team boiling over.
Yeah.
It's getting to crunch time in the season.
I can see that.
And like we were talking about the other week, there's no signs of this team's getting better.
Yeah, they're just getting worse.
Yeah.
Like
there's no reliability on any players right now.
Yeah. And again,
who can you rely on? Who's his go-to guy outside of Travis Kelce?
Well, that's the thing, is it's just Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
It's him and Travis Kelce. And we said this all year last year. If you can shut down Travis Kelce, it's going to be a very frustrating year for the Kansas City Chiefs. And last year, they kind of had Juju Smith-Schuster, who would catch every third down pass they had. They don't have that guy now. Rashee Rice maybe in the future will be that guy, but it's not Tony. How do you ever trust Tony ever again on the field? Like, that's insane to me.
I almost feel bad for the guy because like that would have been his redemption. His season would have been saved on that play.
Yeah.
Had he not been gone.
Just all he had to do was just know where he was on the field before the snap. Just check. Like it's a dumb play. And like, so the other thing that's coming from that this week is Travis Kelce came out and said there's a lot of media pointing fingers on the skill players on our team. He says fuck that, or I say fuck that is the quote. But I mean, dude, it's not the media pointing fingers at your team. It's everybody watching your team play is realizing that there is no skill players on your team. There is nobody outside you. Pacheco can kind of run the ball, but like other than Kelce, I'm not afraid of anybody on that team.
Right, but what's he supposed to say? I look at it, it's similar as Tyreek Hill saying Tua is better than Mahomes. You got to support your team, stand up for your guys to the media. Because if you start bashing them, it just creates more problems.
Well, he
right?
can just not say anything.
Yeah, but he's a talking guy. He's not.
Well, he has a podcast that I think have a little bit more viewers, listeners than ours, but he does have a podcast where he does have a very huge voice in the sports world.
Because they can bring anybody from the NFL in. We can't get anybody.
Yeah.
We can't get a CFL guy in here.
We could get a CFL guy in here. We could probably get a CFL guy in here. Okay, let's move on to another team other than KC, because I feel like the entire world has an opinion on this. So we just got it out of us. I know I feel better. So let's move on to everybody's maybe now new favorite guy. I wouldn't actually even say favorite in New York, but the two players of the week this year. Oh my God. 2 players of the week this past week, Tommy DeVito and Zach Wilson, unbelievable games. Let's start with Zach Wilson first.
The only reason why I say Zach Wilson has to be our favorite guy is because we talk about him more than any other player in the NFL during this season's podcast.
Yeah, that doesn't actually even play.
Yeah, we talk about him more somehow, even though we try to get off him every week.
It's because he's such a crazy story. Like he was drafted maybe second quarterback taken in his draft class, maybe second overall by the New York Jets. He's supposed to be the savior of New York, not just the team, the savior of New York. And the guy just couldn't get it done. So they bring in Rodgers. Everyone's like, Super Bowl.
Oh, we don't need a recap. We know what happened.
I know, but that's insane. And now he gets benched.
He's still a starter.
Then he gets benched, and the rumor comes out. Again, it's just a rumor, but the rumor comes out that he doesn't want to go back in. And now he's back in there, and he goes, what are his stats? We got him right here. He goes 27 for 36, 301 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, probably being the best stat there.
That was probably the game of his career, no? That was his best career game.
But what does it do for him in the long run? Does it just save him the rest of this season? Like, he can't be benched again, right?
Again, it's his season now. New York has established they don't have another quarterback option unless Rodgers comes back. It's got to be Wilson. So what else who else are they going to put in? Well, they don't have somebody else on that team.
You can't go to somebody else now. You just can't go to somebody else now.
It's Wilson's season.
Now, here's the interesting thing. If we're going, because the AFC is so tough, like they're 5-8, they're not going to make the playoffs. But because everyone else is 7-6. If they were in the NFC, you'd probably see Aaron Rodgers this weekend. But because they're 5-8, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams that are 7-6 that are fighting for the playoffs. They're 5-8. They're not going to make the playoffs, just realistically. But does that mean Aaron Rodgers doesn't come back? And what you just said is it's Wilson for the rest of the year, no matter what.
I don't think there's any reason for Rodgers to come back. Why would he risk re-aggravating an injury and perhaps ending his career?
I think the only reason would be that he's so cocky that he wants to be the fastest guy to recover from that injury.
Sure.
Like, that's the only reason that I could see him doing it. Because you're right. Like, why would you not just take the rest of this year off and be around the clubhouse, build your relationships with guys? Apparently, he's working with like the practice squad just to like be out there and doing stuff. Why not build that like camaraderie and then just come in next year and be like, it's going to be Zach Wilson this year, and kind of just take a coaching aspect and be in the film room and all that.
It's a smart move, and I think realistically it's what happens. I don't think he's silly enough to risk injuring himself to end his career when he's actually not healthy just to be the first guy to come back early.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds great. I don't think he'd actually do that, though.
You don't know with him. You don't know. He's the weirdest guy.
He's odd, but he doesn't do odd stuff like that's kind of mindless.
He actually doesn't do anything that a normal, like if he didn't play football as a living, he would just be a normal guy that was just doing things. Like I would argue that the people that work at like yoga studios are just as weird as he is.
Yeah, I don't think it's that weird. I don't think he's ever like exhibited sort of like odd behavior that's completely unwarranted.
Well, right? He locked himself in a dark room for 5 days straight.
Some other players have done that now too.
Who?
Oh, I can't remember. I can pull it up though.
I'm sure you could.
Anyway, but that's not I don't think he invented that.
No, but he's the first guy to talk about it. That's where he comes off weird. He's the first guy to talk about these things that football players don't necessarily talk about.
Well, I think he just takes a different approach to life than maybe the traditional football player. But also, some of the best players, they do things differently, right?
Oh, yeah.
Tom Brady used to kiss his sons on the lips.
Yeah, that's weirder. That's actually weirder. I remember that video was so strange. Would you rather kiss your dad on the lips or just be in a dark room pitch black room for 5 days?
Me and my dad, I don't think I ever got a kiss on the cheek from my dad. I don't think we weren't ready to go to the lips. Are you kidding me?
Okay, let's jump into the other quarterback in New York, Tommy DeVito, probably the most popular player in the NFL right now. Now, he is actually playing very good football. He's 3 games in a row he's won since he's come in. He's undefeated. And he is New York. Like, he's born in Jersey.
Tommy Cutlets.
Like,
what a name.
And like
his family.
His agent. His agent's that was almost, I thought that was a joke. I thought it was his brother just being like, I'm going to do this just to play up, because this is what it is, right? Like, it's not a gimmick, but like if you had to put a face on New York, like
he's a walking stereotype.
Yeah, if AI had to make a New York looking guy, it's Tommy DeVito, right?
Yeah.
And his agent is just one ups. It's like he literally just put a hat on.
Oh, it's definitely a situation where it's like, you know, if you got to write a TV show where Tony Soprano's cousin's kid is an NFL backup QB, that's him.
Yeah, 1,000%. I was gonna go Tony Danza, but just because I can see him actually being like the quarterback guy from what the show used to be, because he ran a boxing gym, didn't he? But anyways,
I don't remember. Who's the boss? Are we talking about who's the boss? What are we talking about?
We're talking about who's the boss. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Some people might get the reference.
I get the reference, but I don't remember the details on that one.
Well, that's the beauty about a reference every once in a while.
Yeah.
Is someone goes, oh yeah, that's
but
a great reference.
You don't even know if you hit the reference correctly.
I think I nailed it, and I'm going to check after I re-listen to it. Be like, yeah, I was 100% right. Now, what do you actually think his future is? Like, I feel like he's fighting for a backup career for the next 10 years.
Yeah, it's difficult. I haven't actually watched him play.
He's electric. He can run. He's making throws. I'm like, what are you doing? And he's nailing them.
Usually, that's not a long-term strategy that's gonna carry you through. But yeah, I think he's definitely made enough of a splash where he's gonna have a job on a team next year.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say he's gonna be a starter. I don't know if he wants to stay. He probably wants to stay in New York, though, from his character. He seems like he'd want to stay in New York, but
his dad is a plumber, and one of his dad's advertisements from his plumbing company is just Mario and Luigi. His plumber is dressed up as Mario and Luigi. Like the guy is basically New York. Like
sure.
I don't even think the story's good if he wasn't in New York. Like the Tommy DeVito story, would it be as good as it is if he wasn't playing for the Giants?
Yeah. Fuck, the Jets probably wish they had him.
The Jets would be the only other team where it was better. Speaking of quarterbacks that the Jets maybe want to have now. But, I mean, again, we're talking about Zach Wilson. He just had the game of his life. But Joe Flacco is playing like his Super Bowl MVP days.
So what ended up happening with this one? Because you were talking about last time he was released from the team? Or
Not
he
released.
He was sent to the practice squad, so he was eligible to be picking up by another team?
So if you're on your team's 53-man roster, then no team can come approach you when you're under contract.
Right.
That's illegal. So you're basically with that team until the team decides they can let you go talk to other teams, or they're trading you, or they're releasing you. But when you're sent to the practice squad, that team's saying, we want you, but we don't want you enough to be stuck with you. So you can talk to other teams, you can go to other teams, but we want you to be in the building still, but we just don't know if we really care that much to like basically protect you. So he was sent down to the practice squad again after this game that he won on Sunday. So any team can come pick him up. It doesn't mean that he has he can say no. I'm going to stay with Cleveland Browns.
He's allowed to negotiate.
But he's allowed to have that open. I just don't know if you're a team in a they're in a playoff
What's the advantage
spot.
of doing this? Is there somebody else taking his spot each week? Like if he goes down, does someone come up?
Yes. Like they if he goes down, essentially their roster goes to 52 men, so they can stay there and choose who they want to bring up as that 53rd guy. I just don't know why you would do that. Like I actually don't know the benefit of it either. Like the guy threw for 311 yards, 3 touchdowns last week and beat the Jaguars. And 2 in a row wins for him now too. They're in a playoff spot. They're 8-5. They're tied with the Jaguars, who were in 3rd. I don't understand why you'd risk the quarterback on your team being able to go anywhere else.
Well, Browns traditionally have not really managed quarterbacks well, so there shouldn't be a surprise on that end. But maybe it's as simple as the Browns are looking at it as nobody wanted this guy for the past this many years.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to grab him now.
And maybe he's saying, just send me down there and then I'll come back up. No, I'm not going anywhere. But what team would come along if you're Joe Flacco that would have to come along and say, you're starting for us, come over here? Because right now, his best chance to start is with the Browns. His best chance to start and be successful is with the Browns.
Yeah.
He can start in 10 different teams right now. It's a ridiculous season for quarterbacks being hurt. But, why would be the answer to that? Why would he leave when he's in a good situation for him? But, there's no future for Joe Flacco in Cleveland.
I think Joe Flacco, just because of his age, doesn't have much of a future at all.
But if he wants to play, he probably wants another contract.
For sure.
And he'll want to start.
And I'm sure that's just the difficulty is for him getting a contract just because he's a bit older and he's been removed from football for a bit, right? So he's probably just happy having anything get. He figures staying on the Browns, at least I could build a little relationship here with the management and just stay on for next year in kind of similar situation.
And just play a backup until Deshaun Watson inevitably gets hurt again. Because he's going to get hurt. He gets hurt every year. Deshaun Watson's career, he'll never play 16 games again in a regular
17.
season.
This is
17 games in a regular season.
It's a 17 season.
I'm saying he won't play 16.
I'm putting him. He won't play 14.
It's so. I mean, I guess it could be a good place for him to be, but he wants to start. He wants to start. I don't know where he'd be able to start right now, but he wants he could probably go to,
Yeah, if he's thinking ahead to next year, it's going to be tough for him to be a starter next year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of teams that need quarterbacks, but there's also a lot of teams that just have quarterbacks either hurt or young that are trying to be good.
Yeah.
Like maybe the Bears, if they're done with like Justin Fields, go, hey, we're going to bring in Flacco for a year and then have the next guy that we draft kind of learn under Flacco. But, I mean, Justin Fields has kind of come around. He's playing really good football. He's going to be a starter on a team next year.
Speaking of Justin Fields, I feel like you cost the Lions the game last week. Single-handedly, individually, solo by you.
What did I do?
You said the Lions don't do well against...
They don't do well against running quarterbacks.
And you evidenced that.
Everyone knows that.
But it's because of what you said. I once got the blame for driving by your house and the Lions got scored on, and that was my fault.
Yeah,
so I feel like
a
you,
photo. You sent me. I thought you were gonna pop. I thought you were gonna pop in the door.
You shit talking them that they're not going to do well against this guy. Yeah, you brought that. You manifested that into reality.
But they don't do well against. I was just right.
Well, yeah, that's what it costs you. Sometimes you don't want to be right.
So just say the wrong things and then just hope that the right thing happens.
If that's what it takes for your team to win, that's what you got to do.
No, I refuse to do that. I've been a Lions fan for too long. Okay, we just deal with losing. So anytime they lose, I'm like, yeah, that's what they do. That's what we do. Everyone has to remember this. A lot of people are freaking out about the Lions right now, and they've lost a couple ugly games, but we've been losing for 60 years. We're used, like, our fan base is used to it. So anyone who's actually a Lions fan and they're super angry right now, are you a Lions fan? Like, what are you talking about? We've been losing forever. This is a normal Lions season.
Quote yourself, it's not the losing, it's the hope that kills you.
Well, that's. I think the hope is slowly drowning.
Oh yeah,
we're treading water right now.
Yeah.
But I mean, listen. We're going to be in the playoffs.
Playoff berth is
we're going to be in the
successful
playoffs.
Season.
We're going to be in the playoffs. We have a winning record, even if we lose every game for the rest of the year. And there's going to be 2 losing records that probably get into the playoffs this year. So I'm not too concerned about not making the playoffs, but I want to win one. That's the importance of this year is I want to win one. I don't expect to win one. Let's get that clear. I don't expect to win one.
You've had one Lions playoff win in your life?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you've had one playoff win in your dad's life?
Yep. We've had one playoff win since...
You've had one playoff win in your granddad's life?
Yes. We've had one playoff win since the Super Bowl was invented. Anyways, let's stop talking about the Lions. Let's talk about a team that actually might also be in trouble this year. That is the Miami Dolphins. Tyreek Hill... We were just talking a little bit off air about how you fell asleep during the game. That's fine. You're allowed to do that. Everyone falls asleep at some point in the game.
Oh, no, I didn't fall asleep during the game. I fell asleep before the game and therefore missed the game completely.
So you slept during the whole game?
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't see a
3-hour nap.
Well, I feel like...
At 5:30 p.m. on a Monday.
For those that don't know, I'm in hyperbaric therapy these days. So when I get out of that, I kind of usually just take a nap. And that nap is usually my 5-hour sleep for the day.
Right. 5 hours sleep for the day is not a normal person thing. No one just takes a 5-hour sleep for the day.
No, but also I exercise the Aaron Rodgers. I don't think anything I've ever done is the normal person way to do things.
Right. So you're pleading your Aaron Rodgers. That's our version of the fifth.
Right. But I think the whole thing of being Aaron Rodgers is you don't do things the same way as other people.
Yeah.
So I can't be the Aaron Rodgers.
I'm going to move past this. I'm going to move past this.
Yeah. I don't know why we got on in the first place.
Anyways, they were up against Tennessee, which is a bad football team, with a rookie quarterback. They were up, I think it was like 27-13. And
with 2 minutes?
Yeah, 2 minutes, 55 seconds, I think, exactly. Oof. And they lost that game. And they had just scored to make it 27-13. And, yeah, they lost that game. Tennessee came back right away, scored a touchdown, and then went for 2, got it. And then scored another touchdown, went for just a field goal to win the game. And then Dolphins got the ball back with like a minute left. Like Tennessee scored those within like a minute 30. So they had the ball back with a minute left and couldn't do anything with it. Now Tyreek also got hurt in this game. So he went out in the first quarter with an ankle sprain or something like that. but he came back into play. Wasn't great. He might have been a decoy. We're not too sure, but he caught a couple balls. So he looked good. He was making cuts. He was fast still, but they weren't really using him. But I mean, like Tua stunk. Tua's very much not looking like a very good quarterback right now. And I think that team kind of lives or dies by his connection with Tyreek Hill.
Who from that looked like a good quarterback last year or at the beginning of the season looks like a good quarterback now?
I mean, it's such a weird, like even
nobody.
Like, you know who I will say that looked very good at the end of last year? We thought would take a step up, but it's kind of just like leveled out. Like he's been very good, but I thought he was going to be excellent, like top 5, and that's Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah,
because they also lost the Browns this week. Now, mind you, he got rocked. Like we didn't think he was going to play again. When I saw him get coiled up last week, 2 weeks ago, I was like, oh, another quarterback for the rest of the year, like a good one too on a playoff team. But he came back, tough guy, hung in there with the Browns, but he hasn't taken that extra step that I thought, like superstardom step, like the steps with like your Lamar Jacksons.
No, he hasn't.
So but Tua, I also thought Tua was going to step up this year, especially because the first 4 games he was so good.
Right, but I'd say Tua has a better opportunity. He has a superstar level receiver. There's no superstar level guy around.
Probably the best receiver in the league.
Sure. There's no superstar level guy around Trevor Lawrence either. I'm not saying he's got garbage players, but he doesn't have like elite top 3 in the NFL at any single position kind of guys around him.
Right.
Never has. So it's a little bit harder. Mahomes at least got Kelsey, top tight end in the league, right? Like a lot of these guys got somebody. Lamar Jackson doesn't.
That's kind of Lamar Jackson does not.
No, he's got nobody.
No, he's got Mark Andrews, who's a lesser Kelsey, and he does almost.
But
the
to be
same
fair, Mark Andrews is a top 3 tight end in the league.
Sure, but that's not saying much because the drop off from Kelsey to everybody else is huge.
But also, Lamar Jackson will just take matters into his own hands and run it. That's
what I mean. It's like that's why I think people underestimate him. Like as he's an MVP, and he gets underestimated in the league because people look at Mahomes and they go, "Oh well, he's got 2 Super Bowls," but he also has Travis Kelce. Whereas you look at Lamar Jackson, he does get hurt a little bit too often, but the guy is just consistently winning games on offense with no superstar help.
Yeah, but he hasn't done anything in the playoffs yet. But, last year he was out for the playoffs. He missed the playoffs. He didn't play. This is his year. And that's a team that...
Just stay healthy.
2 things I want to get into here quick. The teams right now that actually look like legit threats, to me, there's very few. Baltimore in the AFC.
Yeah, Baltimore.
That's kind of the only team that's consistently doing well week in, week out. And in the NFC, I got to think it's got to be the 49ers.
The 49ers, so here's the thing, is the AFC is stacked. Like it goes to like the 11th seed that is 7-6.
It's tight.
All the way down.
I wouldn't say it's stacked, it's tight.
All the way down to the 7th seed is 7-6.
But a lot of these teams will just blow winnable games.
Sure, but so do I was going to say the Lions. You're not wrong. I would say the 49ers are probably the team to beat. Like the NFC is top heavy. 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles. That's probably the contenders you're going to get, right, in the Super Bowl. And then 49ers are a tier above Cowboys and Eagles because they've blown both those teams out. So the AFC though, you're looking at Ravens at the top, and then like Dolphins are next, but I don't trust them at all.
Dolphins haven't beat a winning team, have they?
They've beat one, I think.
Was it one?
I think I think it might have just been the Bills.
Bills have a winning record as of today?
7-6.
Yeah.
7-6.
They didn't have a winning record when they beat.
No, they did not. They're 5-6, I believe.
Yeah.
So I mean, like that's like Ravens very much they're in control of the AFC.
Yeah.
It's just that we're looking at it right now. Who are you afraid of if you're the Ravens on this team? Like Dolphins 2, Chiefs 3, Jags 4.
The Ravens can't beat any team on there.
I'm afraid of the Bills down at 7. They're 7th in standings. Like if I'm the Ravens, I'm going. The only team I'm very much afraid of making a run. You always have to be afraid of Mahomes, but we know that there's significant flaws in Kansas City. But the Buffalo Bills at 7-6, they're one game back of being 4th place. I know that's not true, but like one place, first or first place in the wild card.
It's shocking that they might miss the playoffs by
know.
multiple spots.
Yeah, but looking at this, don't you think the Bills are the most dangerous team and they're not even in the playoffs right now?
Yeah.
If you're the Ravens, thinking about that, like Josh Allen is so good. And then going back to the NFC.
What about the Bengals? How are the Bengals still competing without Burrow?
Man, I'm telling you. So we talked about this last week. That Jake Browning kid, he actually could be a starting quarterback on a team next year that's not Cincinnati.
He is playing as well as you would expect, better, if not better.
Yeah, like Las Vegas would be very smart to try to get Jake Browning on their team.
There was a little thing that I always talk about. I like guys based on character, not always so much about their skill level. It's about their attitude towards things. And I liked, and this is such a small little sample size of, his character, but there's that little thing that came out where, he had the Joe Burrow suite for his family.
Yeah.
And then the reporters asked him, are they going to get it again? And he gave a very blue collar answer. He's like, I don't know if as long as they're like respectful and they don't, it doesn't let them get to their heads, right? Because if it gets to their heads, they're going right back out in the cold, right? Like
that's exactly what he said.
He's like, that's a blue collar guy. That's the guy that's he's focused on the right things, right? He's not trying to just live it up with his family's superstar life. He's like, no, there's bigger things than that.
Yeah,
that's the kind of character I like for a young quarterback because it shows where his focus is at. Said the same thing about Jalen Hurts. Why I thought he was going to be successful was that sort of attitude.
He's also a lot of people were throwing around the next Tom Brady is that DeVito kid, which we can both, you're laughing at it because it's laughable. But Jake Browning, like if we had to compare a guy that is like drafted late, not too much is expected of him to come into the league. Like if we had to choose a guy that was going to be this year, that's the next Tom Brady. I think Jake Browning's probably the guy. Like, there's a bunch of teams. The Chicago Bears could get him. The Raiders could get him.
It's such an unfair comparison.
Oh, 1,000%. Brady's the greatest of all time.
But it's also to be on pace with Brady. You got to win a Super Bowl in your first 2 seasons, and then just continue winning them.
6 more after that,
like consistently. Like it's such an impossible task to put on anybody to be the next Tom Brady, because let's say you win 2 Super Bowls your first and second year, and you win 1 more somewhere else in your career.
Yeah,
you didn't get half as many as him.
I know,
and that's a Hall of Fame
career. Yeah,
like it's just such an unattainable goal that it can be attained. Tom Brady did it, but
I mean, there's teams that should be looking very seriously at Jake Browning. Like it makes sense, and I hope he does well, because if he takes them to the playoffs and wins a playoff game, he will start somewhere else in the league.
100% he will.
Those guys don't just sit back the next season after that. They're too valuable. And there's too few of them in the NFL. It's a quarterback-driven league, and it does not feel like there's a lot of quarterbacks out there that are just absolutely dominating. Now, another team that we just talked about, like the Dolphins being very worried about their playoffs coming up at the end of the season. Eagles, concerns. They just lost to the San Francisco 49ers and the Cowboys. Those are who they're going to have to play.
Those are definite concerns, seeing that those are the top teams in your conference.
Yeah,
and
you're going to have to beat.
They didn't
one
come
of those
close.
teams.
They didn't come close to beating either.
I know.
They weren't in. It wasn't like came down to a final play. Like there was a call that could have gone in a different way. It was a jump ball, like something like you weren't going to win those. You didn't come close to winning.
Now, Hurts did come out and say something along the lines of, and this isn't an exact quote, but saying like, this isn't a forever problem. It's just a little blip. We've just got to solve the little blip, and then we'll be fine. I don't think he's wrong about that. I don't think the Eagles are in trouble. Like, their offense is humming. They have the tush push, the most dangerous play in the league, and their defense is good. I think their defense just needs to get kind of their feet back underneath them, so to say. Like, it's a very good defense. San Francisco is the best offensive team in the league.
It's also the shoe is on the other foot now, so to speak, because the Eagles were the team at the top where the 49ers needed a revenge match against them. They were the ones gunning to take them down.
Yeah.
The Cowboys wanted to take them down, right? Like the Eagles were at the top. They had nowhere else to go. Now it's kind of switched.
Totally.
So now it's a little more even next time they play. They don't have the same kind of motivation like, hey, these guys really fucking got us last time. We have to show them what we got.
Yeah.
Both teams can kind of go out and compete. And I think it'll kind of even out a little more in the playoffs. I don't think the Cowboys blow out the Eagles or kind of just walk away with an easy win or a relatively easy win. To be honest, I could see the 49ers doing it, though. When the 49ers are at their best,
they're so good.
That the team, just on paper and in reality from what we've seen, the only times they didn't play great is with a few injuries.
But when Debo and CMC were both hurt is when they lost 3 in a row. But since those guys have been healthy, unstoppable. And their team is going through. Yeah, like Brock Purdy is just going to give them the ball. That's his job. And we all know how I feel about Brock Purdy, but with him,
we all know how I feel about Brock Purdy.
I know. But he can very much lead this team to the Super Bowl just based off of the people he has around him. Yeah. Now, I will say that the Eagles can be more dangerous because of that mentality. Like, I've always been the guy that said, if you have to play a team in the regular season that you know you're going to need to play in the playoffs, like you know that these guys are going to be in the playoffs, you're most likely to meet them. I would rather lose the game in the regular season,
of course,
and have that mentality going into the playoffs. Like you always want to be the underdog. I always want to be the underdog.
It happened to the Chiefs and the Bengals a season ago. Was it last season? Yeah,
maybe
it was last season.
It always seems like the Chiefs Bengals Bills are always one of the
Chiefs
underdogs.
The Chiefs lost to the Bengals in the regular season, saw them in the playoffs, and beat them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I always want to have that loss. If I'm meeting someone in the playoffs and we've had a regular season game, I always want the articles going into the playoffs game to be like, well, the 49ers won, so they probably have the edge.
Back to San Francisco. Did you hear the comments that, or I don't know if they're 100% accurate, but they came out that Shanahan had a game plan for DK Metcalf?
I just try to get him. Like, I did hear about that. DK Metcalf is the most So Draymond Green just got suspended by the NBA indefinitely.
Yeah,
hothead. He's a hothead. That's what the way to describe him is. He can't control his emotions. That's what a hothead is, and he does that. He gets caught with that.
But Draymond's are a little different. What Draymond's doing is these kind of like uncontrolled. Like, it's either you have so little control of your body, which is still your responsibility to control, that you're just flailing kicks and like stepping on guys, falling on guys, like hacking them, slapping them, punching them. Right? Like, these aren't clear cut punches thrown. They're wild body movements that just result in causing bodily harm to your opponent.
Well, he did put a guy in the headlock.
Yeah, I'm not saying he's never done anything wrong. Like, that one was like in the middle of like a scrum, that was an obvious one. But you can't just keep doing that time and time and time again. DK Metcalf is more blatant that he's throwing a punch at a guy. He's shoving the guy. It's not like it's not
the shortest fuse in the NFL.
Oh,
I think we said this a couple. We both agreed on it that if you can get under his skin, you completely take him out of the game.
It's over. Yeah,
completely take him out of the game. He got kicked out. Yeah. And the guy that so he went after Wagner, who was a linebacker for the 49ers. He didn't
Warner.
Fred Warner. Sorry, yeah. I went after Fred Warner, and Fred Warner just hands up like, whoa, take it easy. And then cornerback, forget his name, Lonell, something along Lenore. Yeah. Thank you. That's 2 for 2 for you right now. Came in and defended his teammate. That's a good teammate. For sure. Also, if you have to trade off DK for Lenore, you're doing it every single time. Lenore is like two years into the season.
It's always been a smart cornerback move. If a cornerback or any sort of
I'm here to shut this guy down, might as well get him out of the game.
Yeah, if I can take him out of the game completely, 1 for 1, we're both out, that's a fair trade. If you can take
1,000%.
Like the top receiver on a team out of the game, you're
and he's like the third cornerback on that team, third or fourth cornerback. So he's able to take out their best receiver. That is every team in the world would do that except for the Seattle Seahawks. So I mean, DK Metcalf needs to talk to somebody. He needs to be like, hey, you're going to get mad. That's what football is. But you have to channel that energy into yards. You have to channel that energy into blocking guys when it's legal. You can't just be upset and throw punches at people. There's that
famous footage of Gronkowski. He shoves the guy, I forget who it was. They were going at it all game. And then he two-hand shoves him, like just blocking-wise, takes him out of the play, out of the end zone, through the sidelines, and then just like, he took him about 15, 20, 30 yards way too far after the play just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Got a penalty for it, but still, he set the tone. The guy didn't mess around anymore.
And DK needs to do more of that stuff because it's always like, so He got up, went after
player
more.
knows. Every player now knows that, hey, we
1000%.
can just get this guy.
Especially if they go to the playoffs. He did it in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Or no, it wasn't the playoffs. It was to get into the playoffs against the Rams. And he caught like a 35-yard pass and then went after Ramsey and got a penalty. It was like, dude, you're fighting for your playoff life right now. Now, then the Lions beat the Packers and Seahawks missed the playoffs. But, Seahawks got in.
The Seahawks got in. Packers missed the playoffs because of it.
So they only got in because of the Lions, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. But he has to. If he's going to be an all-time player, which he has the body and skill set to do, he can't be doing this. Like, the greats don't do this.
No.
Jerry Rice is never getting kicked out of a game for losing his temper.
No.
Like, it's just... And as a Seattle fan, which you are, like, it's got to be so frustrating to watch.
He doesn't do anybody any good. Not his team, not himself.
Well, that's exactly it too. Like, you're putting your team needs you on the field, not defending your honor or the coach's honor or anyone. Like, you have to be the guy on the field that is responsible. Let guys like Lenore on your team be the guys that are fighting. Like, you need to be on the field every play. Yeah. It was frustrating to see, but also it wasn't surprising.
No, it's become a regular occurrence now.
Yeah, I don't even know when it started too. Like, was he like this his entire career?
I didn't notice it as a rookie.
Maybe
kind of over the last 2 seasons. Yeah. I've noticed it over the last 2 seasons. It's been happening more and more and more. And maybe it's just adding frustrations that the team's not really that successful. They're not making.
They're making playoffs last year.
They're making playoffs, but they're not making a push in the playoffs. They're not really a favorite or.
But to me, it stood out the game we talked about with the Rams, where it was like, this is for you to get into the playoffs to do some damage, and you're acting like you don't belong there.
Yeah,
it was very odd.
Could we call it roid rage?
No, because he probably gets tested for that all the time. Every time he punches somebody, they probably get drug tested, or else you normally would, because that's what it seems like. That's 100% what it seems like. Okay, some conflicting reports that came out yesterday. And by conflicting, I mean there was one guy named Tom who works with the New England Patriots that said that the Patriots have already decided after the game in Germany when they lost the Colts that Bill Belichick will not be back next year. Now, no one else reported this. He reported it. It was put up on the Score and TSN, both Canadian websites. Was not put up on ESPN, wasn't put up on Bleacher Report. The Athletic didn't grab it. Nobody took this seriously. New England obviously denied it. But, sure, it might end up being true, but that's because it's going to be a mutual decision between the two, right? It's not going to be New England saying you're fired. It's going to be like, Bill, what would you like to do?
I don't think it really matters who initiates it. I think everybody sees this coming. And even if the rumor is unsubstantiated, I still think it'll end up being true.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree, but I don't think that it happened.
There's a line in a Michael Jackson song in Billie Jean says, "Until the lie becomes the truth." And I think that's what this is, right? I think this is exactly what's going to happen.
It's a great reference.
Yeah. Oh, we're on top of the references today.
It's a great reference.
But
I don't think it's decided yet. I think it'll be a sit down between Robert Kraft, Bill Belichick at the end of the year. Both of them go like, "What are we going to do? How are we going to fix this? Are we going to fix it?" Or
but I think it also might come to there's rumblings that the Patriots are already looking at a replacement.
But don't you need a general manager for that? He is the general manager. Bill Belichick is the general manager.
Yeah, but that could be it. Maybe they're looking at a general manager
to just come in and redo everything. Now, I think that as long as he wants to be there, he's there. I think that's how it kind of is going to work. I think he wants to do what Tom Brady did and say, I'm going to go win somewhere else, and I'm going to leave to prove how good I am.
And it's not a shot against him or any coach. The best coaches of all time, they move around. Like, it's not.
Oh no,
coaches lose their effectiveness. It happens, right?
You lose the team, you lose the effectiveness. You lose the city, you lose the fans, you lose the trust in the organization. You just have to go somewhere else where someone's happy to have you again.
Yeah, but it's also sometimes your way of doing things isn't right in the current, 2-3 years, 4 or 5 years.
That's not going to get better when he takes that same mentality to a different team.
No.
But you're right. He's like an old school guy, which I don't know if that flies so well with people now.
You saw that footage with Bailey Zappi dapping up the
offensive coordinator.
Yeah, and then just all military style respect for
three-step sword, arm out, shake hand, elbow perfectly straight.
Congratulations,
nice tight squeeze,
and congratulations, coach.
Yeah,
congratulations, coach.
Spin on one ankle and walk back to your dressing room.
I gotta say though, I've been shitting on the kid, but I was kind of happy to see like how excited Bailey Zappi was for
Have
that
to
win.
be.
He played well. He deserved it. Like,
but you have to show that emotion. Like people want to see that emotion. With Bill, maybe not, but your fans want to be like, I have trust in him wanting to win.
yeah. But also just like that was the like the schoolyard happiness of a kid that like
It was.
played well, right?
Very
Like you
much,
could just see like that childhood, emotion on his face, and that's that brings the nostalgia in sports, right?
That's why you play the game.
Yeah.
That's why we watch it. Okay, we got 2 more things here. We'll go through them quickly, and then we'll get into the rest of the.
This next one's a tough one.
Next week.
It's a tough one.
After week 14, current leading MVP candidate. Now, I got in a fight with this with my friends about a week ago because I said Dak. And they said Dak hasn't beat anybody. But now he has.
He has. Who else? If not Dak, then who?
Well, if the Dolphins kept winning, I'd say Tyreek.
Sure,
But they're
didn't.
not.
If he hits 2,000 yards this season,
Maybe offensive player of the year. He's got it locked in.
Yeah.
Offense, but like MVP, there's different criteria. It does usually go to a quarterback. I understand that. It shouldn't. It should go to the most important player.
but you heard J.J. Watt's comments on that, which makes sense. The reason he agrees that it goes to a quarterback isn't because the quarterback's always the most valuable player, but it's the most valuable position.
Right.
Your quarterback is such a crucial position, more so than any other player on the field individually, that it kind of makes sense that it goes to them just by the nature of each position's defining roles.
Right. I understand that. So is there a quarterback that deserves it more than Dak?
It's tough. No, like nobody's a clear-cut head and shoulders candidate.
The only guy I would say
Maybe Jackson, maybe
Lamar Jackson for sure would be in the. He has to be in the
conversation. Yeah, Dak.
Now
I can
I would
see
argue
Purdy
opposite for
in the
no,
conversation,
bullshit.
but
Fuck
I
you.
don't think he
No.
beats
Bullshit.
either of those two.
CMC is more valuable to that team than Purdy is.
Sure.
So I think I would not. The only reason Purdy's getting into it is because he's the quarterback of that team.
Exactly.
Anybody can be the quarterback.
That's
of that
what I'm
team.
saying. He's in the conversation, but I don't put him above those other two.
He's in it just because he has to be in it because he's the quarterback of the best
Sure,
team.
and that's it.
But CMC is the
That's
most valuable
just the
player
requirement
on that
to be in
team.
the conversation. That's it. Not to actually beat out some other guys in that.
Now, if the Houston Texans go from 7-6 into a playoff spot, they're 1 game behind Jacksonville in their division. If they win the division, CJ Stroud has to be up there with Dak.
Yeah.
Like that.
From the way he plays.
He's making that team hum. Now,
That's why I specifically worded this after week 14, because I still think there'll be a lot of shuffling on this by the end of the season.
because you could also, if the Bills get back into the playoffs and are maybe win their division, they're 2 games behind the Dolphins. Josh Allen.
Yeah.
If you got Broncos beating the Chiefs, 1 game behind the Chiefs, Russell Wilson get in that conversation?
If the Chiefs go off from here on out, the love for Patrick Mahomes, he'll win it again.
Yeah.
Like anything can happen still.
Yeah,
It's
there's
still
a lot.
enough games that...
I put it on Dak, though. I say
I agree. I think,
Yeah.
even though I'm not his biggest fan, I think as of today,
Don't like the Cowboys, don't like Dak.
he would be the guy to give it
But
to.
how do you not give it to him? Okay. This is a statement to everybody because we love a good roast. We love a good comedy show.
I've always wanted to roast somebody.
I feel like this is a comedy show. But no, I don't know if anyone laughs.
Do we laugh?
No.
We chuckle.
No, I want to laugh, but nothing's
We
ever
chuckle.
that. Yeah. You want to tell the people May 5th what's going on?
I just saw this right before we started recording. Apparently, Netflix is hosting a Tom Brady roast. It's got the regular, most famous roast master of all, Jeff Ross.
Who I've had tequila shots with.
Have you?
Oh, I have.
Do you want to share that story?
We were in LA. A buddy of mine, Adam, lives in LA, still lives in LA, and this was probably 2014, I want to say. We went to the House of Blues in
House
LA.
of Blues.
And we went up. Steel Panther was playing on the first level.
Okay.
The second level was just another bar that was a little bit smaller. We went up there, and Jeff Ross was up there. There was another comedian with them. I want to say it was Dane
Dane Cook?
Cook, but I can't remember exactly. but I remember Jeff Ross, and we did tequila shots with him. We had ourselves a good night. That was a good trip. That year.
You bought him a drink?
Oh, yeah, we were rolling in money when we saw him. There was like 8 of us. We could afford buying him one tequila shot. Yeah, so that's awesome. A roast, also, if no one knows, is when you have a host and a guest of honor, being Tom Brady, and everyone gets to just rip into all the people on the panel. If you had a dream guest on that panel, I know who I want. Who do you want?
I put no thought into this. You go first.
Peyton Manning. He's got to be on that panel.
Right.
He has to be. He's one, funny, and 2, he's the guy
Eli.
Eli would be funnier, actually.
Eli's not as funny, but
on that panel
that panel to antagonize Tom Brady. Because Tom Brady, like, he's got this mutual respect for Peyton. He just hates Eli. He hates him in a respectful way, but he just hates Eli.
Well, he's got to think, like, Peyton Manning is... If you had to argue best quarterback of all time against Tom Brady, my argument is Peyton Manning. I think Peyton Manning is a better pure quarterback than Tom Brady, of course. 100%. Now, he didn't lose to Peyton Manning. He lost to Peyton Manning's little brother, who was nowhere near the quarterback level that Peyton was. Eli he won 2 Super Bowls. Can't take those away from him. And he is a little bit funny, but he wasn't the pure quarterback that Peyton was. So I actually think that'd be funny. Maybe have them both on.
Oh, for sure.
Just have them sit beside each other and just like talking, just hands in front of their mouth, just talking shit about Tom the entire time. That'd be great. I hope those guys are on there. I bet you Peyton Manning's on there. There's no way he's not.
He's got to be.
He's got to be. Okay, so we don't have a conspiracy of the week this week, but what we do have is fantasy playoffs are starting. I know nobody gives a shit about other teams' fantasy players, but we have to do a little bit of thing on this, and that is you're going in the fantasy playoffs, I'm going in the fantasy playoffs. Who do you want to have a good week this week specifically, and who do you want to have a bad week specifically? And it's like not trying to jinx the guys, not trying to like say I need a good, but like realistically.
Well, obviously, anybody on my team, one of the teams I play on that like the fantasy starts on this week, just because it's more teams. The other team I play, the other league I play in has less teams, so it just starts next week. Anybody on my team to go off, but there's bonuses. There's massive bonuses. Like if you run for more than 40 yards. Or, you know, you're receiving these, you get a bonus. And more than 50, more than 60, whatever. So if any of my players can get a big bonus and just, like, pull up 70 points or something.
70 points?
I've never hit 70. I hit, like, almost 60 points.
So, like, if they run for 40 yards on one play?
So, like, Deebo Samuel, 3 TDs. I got, like, almost 60 points out of him that week.
What the hell is wrong with this league? That's the weirdest thing I've ever heard.
It's bonuses. Yeah,
I understand. You've already said that, but just saying the word again doesn't make me like it.
It evens out because everybody can get them. So, like, what it does is you're almost never out of it. If you got one receiver running back left, if he goes off on that game, you can, like, really make a big comeback.
That would be exciting.
But, again, a lot of people are going to hate it because it's not the standard.
No, it's weird.
It is.
It's very weird.
The other league I play in has defensive players. Linebackers, D-backs, and defensive linemen.
Well, okay. So
what's more weird?
I'm very worried about Eckler because that offense is shit now with the Chargers. I don't know what happened to them. Kellen Moore, who looks like Butthead from Beavis and Butthead. Yeah. He was ruined that offense.
They shut the other team out.
Eckler needs to step up. Very worried about his play. And if I had to go with, like, I'm very afraid of Prescott. I'm hoping that his, like, playing against the Buffalo Bills will help me out.
Yeah. So as long as I win, I'm happy. But I've always said fantasy football brings out the worst human nature in your psyche.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, for you to have a shot at winning a week, just so you can have a shot at making the playoffs, just so you can have a shot at maybe making, like, anywhere from a couple hundred to, like, 1,000 or so bucks.
Yeah.
You start wishing this guy dies in a car crash.
No,
like,
yes,
you start wishing the worst things. I hope this guy breaks his leg. I hope this guy gets arrested at the airport.
Just you.
No. You wish the worst on your opponent's players just so you can win.
Nope.
Like,
I hope everyone goes out there and safe. I just hope the other team players suck. That's all I wish for. But anyways, that's enough fantasy talk here. No one wants to hear about anything else. Let's move on to this week's games.
So let's start with the bad game of the week, because I know you like the bad game.
I do like the bad game of the week.
It's your Chargers, who actually scored 7 points last week, not 3. I correct myself.
Yeah, I thought I had a touchdown.
And against my Raiders. 2 teams that are not going anywhere. 2 teams that
both suck.
Typically, historically, for the last few seasons, with these rosters, similar rosters, they've actually had pretty good games against each other's.
Well, last year, the last game of the week, or last game of the year, which was the last game of the week, was for the playoffs.
I think it was 2 seasons ago, no?
I thought it was last year.
Was it last year? I think it was 2 seasons ago.
Was it? Anyways, who cares?
Either way.
But that's a good example of these two teams.
Yeah. Regardless, I think it typically would be a good game, but these offenses are struggling. Neither offense seems to be going anywhere right now.
Also, both they've already fired the head coach of the Raiders. Chargers head coach is probably next. Probably after this game. Like, you're not going to fire a coach on the short week. But after this game, he's probably fired. So, I would say so. But this is probably, both these teams are going to be massively different next year.
Yeah. Chargers missing their number one receiver.
Missing their quarterback. Yeah,
missing their quarterback. Yeah, he
out.
left early.
Yep, Keenan Allen is out this week as of today. He's not going to be playing Thursday night. It's going to be a shitty game Thursday night. But here's the thing: is Thursday night the game always is expected to be shitty. But we've had some very bad teams just scoring lots of touchdowns.
Right, but we've also had some terrible Thursday night games.
Oh yeah. Thursday nights are the worst.
Yeah.
And Al Michaels, he was taken off of a playoff game. He was supposed to be an announcer on a play-by-play guy on one of the playoff games this year. They took him off, and I think it's just because he shit talks every team that comes into Thursday night. He's like, "This, why are we watching this game? These are two bad quarterbacks. Why are we watching this game? We should have got some other teams to be playing tonight."
The game of the week, in my opinion, some might dispute it. It's got to be the Bills versus the Boys, and that's because Bills, we know their potential.
Yes,
they've turned it on as of late.
Yes.
They've won the last two
in
pretty exciting fashion, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. They're tied with, I think, 14 other teams in the AFC at 7-6 or so, 7-5. And they're playing the Cowboys, who made a statement game, but they have to carry on. If they want that bye, they have to carry on and keep winning.
Cowboys
they can't take their foot off the gas.
No, especially because if Philly wins every game for the rest of the year,
if they both win
out,
Philly has the tiebreaker.
Yeah. Now, so I agree with you. Bills can't lose another game this year, especially this is a huge statement game for them. It's in Buffalo. They're favored to win by 2.5 points. I think
weather
Buffalo
against a
wins
warm
this
weather
game.
team too. That always has an impact.
This could be maybe we get snow. I haven't looked at the forecast, but maybe we get snow.
Oh yeah,
I love snow games. Those are my favorite games.
If it's a snow game, I'm taking the Bills. I don't think
1,000%.
I don't think who do the Cowboys have that plays in the snow?
Nobody. No one I can think of from college.
Where's Dakota from?
Dakota Fanning? I don't know. I haven't seen her in any movies.
Dakota Prescott.
I don't know, but no idea.
I feel like he's from a cold weather place.
I don't think so. He's not as tough as Josh Allen is. Josh
Allen's a California boy.
Yeah, but he's tough as shit.
He's
been in Buffalo now
boy.
for
he's
3 or
just
4
big.
years. Yeah,
and he's also used to playing in Buffalo now. So
I think Buffalo wins.
That's the game of the week.
The only other game that's a 1:25 p.m. game. I will say the Sunday night game is also very interesting with Jaguars versus Ravens in Jacksonville. Jaguars got to start winning games again. They've kind of slipping a little bit. They lost the Browns. So, I think that this is another big game for them. Also, Saturday night, Lions-Broncos is no game to slouch at either.
Saturday games. Yeah, I forgot about the December Saturday games.
Love the December Saturday games. Those are my favorite nights to watch football, I think. In December, sit at home, wine football, knowing that the next day you're getting a full slate of football games. There's nothing better.
Especially when it's cold out. You don't want to go out because where we live, it's cold and wet and ugly. And
the wet cold is way worse than the snow cold.
It chills you to your bones.
It's a deep, deep cold. Okay, so who you got this week? What did you pick?
Okay, I'll just go through all three and then you do your thing. I got the Bengals over the Vikings because the Vikings seem to have some sort of quarterback troubles. They benched Dobbs, whereas the Bengals seem to be not having any sort of quarterback trouble after losing their top guy.
New Tom Brady.
It's almost as if they still have their $300 million man or whatever.
Games in Cincinnati, Bengals are 3-point favorites.
Despite the Bears' impressive win the last week,
easy.
I'm taking the Browns. Browns don't seem to be stumbling either.
Where is this game? Oh, there it is. I see it.
Yeah, the Browns
10
and the
a.m.
Bears.
10 a.m., 1 p.m. if you're on the East Coast.
Yeah.
Browns in Cleveland, 3-point favorites. Cleveland. You think
only 3, but
Browns over Bears? I think that I think
The Browns are a playoff team. The Browns are a playoff team.
Currently, the 7-6. They're fighting for playoff spots.
Deep enough in the season that that's not an accident.
Joe Flacco could ruin this Bears defense.
Yeah. And then I'm taking the easy one just because the lead I have for the most picks correct is dwindling.
Yeah.
So I'm taking the 49ers over the Cardinals. Although that could backfire because the 49ers aren't playing for as much.
No, this could be one of those games where they overlook the team.
Yeah.
Like that could
definitely
in Arizona, they're 12.5-point favorites. This could very much be a game where let's just get through Arizona and then we got 3 more games to the playoffs. Let's just start thinking about it. So this could very much be it. And Kyler Murray's slinging the ball around, so this could be an upset.
I'm calling it too. This is one team I could see the Cardinals coming out winning.
Yeah. But you're choosing the 49ers.
Well, yeah. You have to take the 49ers.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I got the Bengals over Vikings.
But I took that one.
I know. Well, I didn't look at yours before I did it, so I'm riding with you. Did you? No other overlaps. I got the Texans over the Titans in Tennessee. I think Houston bounces back from that bad game. CJ Stroud's going to play much better. I don't think Titans are going to the Titans were better than what they usually are in that game. I know the Titans are favored to win by 3, but I think that's just because it's in Tennessee. It's a divisional game. Those are always tough. But I got Texans. And then I got this one I think is going to be pretty easy. Rams are 6.5-point favorites over the Washington Commanders in LA. I think Matthew Stafford just throws the ball all over the place for an easy victory in Los Angeles for the Rams.
Rams are the biggest surprise team for me this year.
Well, they had a lot of injuries last year.
Them and the Texans.
They had a lot of injuries last year, right? Everybody forgets about that.
Yeah.
And we also talked about it at the beginning of the season. We don't really know if people want to play for the Rams right now. But they're 6-7.
The coach doesn't want to be there.
They're a game out of the playoffs right now, so they could still make the playoffs.
The Rams are out of the playoffs.
They're currently out. The Packers have that last spot at 6-7.
Oh, yeah, right.
But the Rams are 6-7. The Seahawks are 6-7. Falcons, Saints are both 6-7. All of them are tied for that last.
I think the Vikings are going to slip out of there.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think all these teams could be 7-7 probably by the end of the weekend. It's more exciting for the Rams to do well, I think, in NFL for the league, and maybe the Packers too. But I didn't say that. All right, everybody, thank you for listening. We will be back next week with running down the clock. Running Down the Clock is brought to you by the Ordinary Podcast Network and is every Thursday running until the week after the Super Bowl. We hope you enjoyed enough to subscribe and tune in again next week.